How has Archaeology Corroborated the Bible? By Walter C. Kaiser, Jr. The past century or so has witnessed some of the most remarkable archaeological discoveries of the Christian era. No single discipline has contributed as much as archaeology to the interpretation and delight of reading the Bible. However, the discipline has had its embarrassing moments as well. For example, in 1929, Sir Leonard Woolley declared, while excavating in Mesopotamia, "I have found the flood." Unfortunately for him and for the discipline of archaeology, there were embarrassed faces when other layers of flood sediment turned up at various strata throughout the area. Others have claimed to have found the location of the Garden of Eden, the Ark of the Covenant, and the like, but such claims must not be confused with real and legitimate discoveries throughout the ancient Near East. The real role of archaeology is not to prove the Bible, for that kind of proof is available only in certain deductive sciences such as mathematics and logic. On the contrary, the role of archaeology is one to supply cultural, epigraphic, and artifactual materials that provide the background for accurately interpreting the Bible, and two, to anchor the events of the biblical text in the history and geography of the times, and three, to build confidence in the revelation of God, where the truths of Scripture impinge on historical events. Over the last century or so, archaeology has strengthened the case for biblical reliability. Missing individuals, peoples, places, and obscure customs, historical and political settings have been helpfully identified. Missing individuals. It had been fashionable in some circles for many years to ridicule Isaiah 20, verse 1, for its allusion to Sargon, king of Assyria. Excavations of Nineveh had seemingly revealed all the kings of Assyria, but there was no Sargon. The Bible must have gotten it wrong. However, in 1843, Paul Emil Botha found a virgin site northeast of Nineveh, later excavated by the University of Chicago with details published in the 1930s. Sargon had built his own capital there in 717 BC. His son, however, moved the capital back to Nineveh, so the site was lost, as was Sargon's name. Now Sargon is one of the best-known Assyrian monarchs. Likewise, the Bible contended that King Belshazzar was the final ruler of Babylon, reference Daniel 5:1 and verse 30. But until AD 1929, the extra-biblical evidence pointed to Nabonidus as king of the fall of Babylon in 539 BC. This apparent conflict was solved when documents were discovered revealing that Nabonidus spent his time in Arabia, leaving the affairs of the kingdom to his eldest son, Belshazzar, who reigned as co-regent for a decade or so. Discoveries of other biblical names have confirmed biblical reliability, including King Jehoiakim's presence in Babylon, Sanballat as governor of Samaria, along with some of Nehemiah's adversaries, such as Tobiah, the Ammonites, and Geshem the Arab, reference Nehemiah 2:19. Other discoveries confirm well-known biblical individuals such as Balaam, David, Ahab, Jehu, Hezekiah, Menachem, and others. Missing peoples. Until Hugo Winkler discovered the Hittite Empire in 1906, many unbelievers doubted the Bible's insistence that the Hittites were part of the land of Canaan, as in Genesis 10:15 and Josiah 1:4. Now they are so well documented that a score of volumes has been necessary to build a Hittite dictionary based on the tablets left in their civilization. Another mystery group were the Horites, descendants of Esau from Edom, Genesis 36:20 and Deuteronomy 2:12 and 2:22. But in 1995, Giorgio Bucalati discovered the Horite capital city beneath the modern Syrian city of Tel Mosan. Missing places. 1 Kings 9:28 claimed King Solomon brought back 16 tons of gold from Ophir. But where was Ophir, and did it really exist? In 1956, at Tel Kaiser in Israel, broken pottery was found with an inscription referring to a shipment of gold of Ophir from Beth Horon, 30 shekels. Thus, Ophir was confirmed as known in the world of commerce with its trade in gold. Ophir is identified today as a port some 60 miles north of Bombay. Another example is the disputed list of sites along the route of the Exodus in Numbers 33. But Charles Kralmakov noted 3 ancient Egyptian maps of the road from Araba to the plains of Moab, with the earliest of the 3 maps inscribed on the walls of Karnak in the reign of Thutmose III, circa 1504 to 1450 BC. According to this list, the route from south to north follows precisely the way the Israelites listed in Numbers 33, with 4 stations especially noted: Iyem, Dibon, Abel, and Jordan. Other sensational finds. Discovered by Grenfell in Egypt in 1920, the John Rylands papyrus yielded the oldest known fragment of the New Testament manuscript. The small scrap from John's Gospel, John 18:31 through 33 and 37 through 38, was dated by papyrusologists to 125 AD, but since it was so far south into Egypt, it successfully put an end to the then popular attempt to late date John's Gospel to the 2nd century rather than to the traditional 1st century date of AD 85 to 90. The Dead Sea Scrolls found in 1948 in the caves of Qumran near the northwest end of the Dead Sea gave us some 800 manuscripts of every book, in part or in the whole, of the Old Testament except for Esther. Prior to that, the earliest Hebrew text dated to around AD 1000. But the scrolls at Qumran are generally more than 1,000 years older. These Hebrew texts illustrate that 1,000 years of copying had provided us with an amazingly pure text, with one of the best examples being the book of Isaiah, where only 3 words had slight modifications. In 1990, a bone chest was discovered accidentally during work in Jerusalem's Peace Forest. This Caiaphas ossuary belonged to the high priest from AD 18 to 36. See his cynical words in John 11:49 through 53. The inscription found in 2 places read, Caiaphas and Joseph, son of Caiaphas. 1st century Jewish historian Josephus provided the full name, Joseph, who was called Caiaphas of the high priesthood. Since space precludes discussion of the many more archaeological corroborations, such as the Pontius Pilate inscription, the Pool of Siloam excavated in 2004, and the amazing Ketef Hinnom amulets discovered in 1979, with inscriptions of Nehemiah 6:24 through 26 and Deuteronomy 7:9, perfectly matching the biblical Hebrew text. Amazing, since these 7th to 6th century BC amulets contain Old Testament texts skeptics argued could not have been written until the 400s BC. Archaeology then has illuminated and corroborated the Bible in numerous ways. The interpreter finds in archaeology a good friend for understanding and substantiating Scripture.